Good evening, guys. This is Yiannis from SKAN Heating on channel SKAN Academy. Yes, this is the second live, and today we delay a little bit to come live, but it was a proper reason. We have a little bit new equipment, new microphones, new cameras, because I try to do my best. And I'm not so familiar with this technology now, so that's why we delay a little bit. But anyway, I would like a little bit of comments for you in case if you can hear me very well. Just say yes, say hi, or you can write a little comment or whatever. That's going to be very, very helpful. And yes, today we will have a very interesting live with the 20 most common questions of you guys, because I ask you to send me your messages or your DM, digital message, via email or via chat on Facebook, whatever, in order to answer, and we start to create a conversation, because I would like to make you aware of one of the most common things to be able sometimes, if you can, to understand a little bit better how the boiler works. So, hi, this is Tom. My boiler keeps losing pressure. It's normal, or do I have to find out what's happening? Yes. So, Tom, first of all, losing pressure 6 times a year or 5 times a year, we don't need to be worried too much, or we don't need to be alert. The most important thing is if this one happen every day, yes, we have to see what's happened. The first trick I will like to do, and send me a message or a little video as well, is as soon as you top up the pressure and the pressure going high, you have to add the pressure 1 bar. If this pressure instantly, when the temperature of the boiler go roughly about 65-70 degrees, in the worst case scenario, go straight away 4, and the PRV start led by and dripping. The PRV is the pressure relief pipe, which is actually located on the back of the boiler and going outside on the wall, and has a little bit this inclination. If you see this one dripping, then the problem is definitely the expansion of the cell. And of course, because the PRV start to let by, the water inside the circuit is not always clean and nice. That's why we have to replace the PRV, or we can clean it and refit it, but not recommended. We do that as an emergency situation if we don't have other option. The best we can do is just to replace the expansion of the cell in the PRV. Some engineers recharge the expansion of a cell. I don't find very good idea. The reason is I don't find very good idea is because after 5, 6, 7, 8 years, when the boilers start to lose the air pressure into the expansion of the cell, the rubber pipe is not in the very good condition, and then in the end of the day, we have more visits from the engineer to identify and see what's happened, rather to enjoy peace of mind and proper heating. For me, it's better to replace the PRV and the expansion of the cell in this case. Now, Tom, if you don't have this high pressure when you top it up, the next thing you have to do is just to check if you have any visual leaking in the house. This leaking normally go around the radiator valves, the tower rail, the radiator valves, and in some cases behind, somewhere inside or outside of the boiler. If you cannot see the leaking, unfortunately, it should be somewhere you cannot identify, and then we don't have plenty of options. The only thing I will advise is just in the first stage, just to add a little bit leak sealer, and if that helps, we are lucky. If not, we have to keep topping up until we found where the leaking is. Yes, I know it's not easy, but at least it's something for nothing. Let's go to the second questions. Why are my radiators hot on the top but cold in the bottom? Yes. That's a very, very common questions I have for my customers. For example, when something's going wrong and they turn the heating on, they see that when the boiler starts up, the temperature on the pack on the top of the boiler is hot, and the bottom is cold. When we start up the heating and we have, for example, let's say the first 10, 15, 20 minutes or 1 hour, yes, that is normal. If regardless how many hours we have the heating on and we keep having the bottom cold, definitely the system is full of sludge and the circulation is very poor, and we have to replace the radiator. Sometimes the power flash helps, sometimes not. Yes, we can do the power flash, but we have to consider that the power flash is not cheap. And if the system is very old and we have microbore pipes, sometimes we can damage the pipes and we start to have leakings. So we have to be very, very careful. One more time, all the radiators initially are hot on top and cold in the bottom. And yes, if that keeps happening across the whole time when the radiator is hot, definitely the system is built a lot of sludge and we have poor circulation, and we have to start to consider the power flash or to replace the radiator in some cases. But that's the process: power flash, replace radiators, and then if the problem still exists, we have to change completely the whole pipe system on the central heating. I hope that helps, guys. And let's go to the next one. The next one is, what does an F22 fault mean on my boiler? Whatever fault code you have now, guys, on your boiler, first of all, I would like to take a screenshot, take a picture. And if you take a picture, because sometimes we see the F22 and we transfer in the end of the day, in the end of the line, when you call me F28. Because we are humans, yes, sometimes we get confused. And all we need is just to know which exactly is the fault code. Or sometimes could be display two fault codes, F22 or F28 at the same time. Of course, if you have any additional questions, guys, please feel free to leave a little comment on the live chat, and I will try to answer at the same time when we do the live. So, first of all, take a picture. Secondly, I would like to do for you, if you go on, for example, on Google and you open the browser, please typing, for example, F22 on the Vaillant boiler, for example. And then all you can see is what the Vaillant says. Be very careful. You have to see what the Vaillant says, because there are so many articles, they confuse you. In this case, because that's quite common, I know that it's low water pressure. Yes, I know that sometimes the pressure looks 1.5 bars, but the boiler does not fire up. In this case, just let you know, the boiler before fires up need to understand that we have a differential pressure, because we spoke on the other, let's say, video, you can find on the videos as well, which is what's the steps of the boiler to fire up. First of all, the boiler, what does? We start the boiler, for example, just to start the circulation pump running, just to understand if we have a water pressure. The sensor understand the water pressure. And the second thing, they want to understand, for example, if we have differential pressure of the pump. If we don't have the differential pressure, the system does not start up. On a Vaillant boiler, it's quite common, the water sensor switch getting stuck, getting so strong, getting so stiff and dirty, which definitely understand if we have water pressure on the slow motion, but when the circulation pump starts to fire up, unfortunately, it does not pick up that action, and then says, listen, probably I don't have water or something else happened. For example, the circulation pump is not working, but for any reason, I cannot really come on. In this case, I would like to show you that I have on the background some of the pictures, my daughter's pictures. My daughter last night stayed and designed my old logo, because my new logo now is this one. Changed a little bit. We removed the electric socket and we put a fan. and the off-tech register body here as well. And the other thing I would like to show you on this live is the gas safe label. I promised to her that I'm going to show you, and that's why I will show you. Probably she will watch us as well the same time on the live. And let's go to the fourth question, apologize. There is a dripping pipe outside in my house. Is that the problem? Yes, we have to, definitely we say we have to be alert. It should be a problem, but we have to know which pipe is that dripping. Of course, I'm not expecting for you guys to know if this pipe is the PRV, if the overflow pipe, or whatever that calls that pipe. All I would like for you is just to go up to the attic and check. For example, we have two tanks sometimes on the gravity fed system. The first tank is the tank which we call FNE feed and expansion tank, and we have the other cold storage tank, which when we have gravity fed cylinders. Sometimes those ones, the flow valves getting let by from the lamp scales, which is absolutely normal if you want my opinion, and keep feeding the tank. And as a result, we have excess of water, and this excess of water go through the overflow pipe, and that's why we see some drips. Second thing could be, very rare, but could be, to have a pinhole on the coil inside the heating coil of the heating, and then the water passed through the cylinder, and that's why the size of the water getting bigger and led by. The other thing could be happen as well from the expansion and feeding tank, should be overflowed as well from the very old flow valve. As a result, what we do in this case, first of all, if you feel confident to replace that, please replace by yourself. If not, speak with a heating engineer or a plumber, and he can replace for you. If this one keeps happening, then needs a little bit further investigation. It's better than a specialist to come to check, like a heating engineer, one of us. And let's go to the next question now. Why does my boiler make a loud banging or tickling sound when it starts up? Yeah, it's better to explain what do you mean, for example, banging noise, because there are two major issues that happen. If the boiler starts to make that banging noise and after that stop to working because overheated, we can definitely consider that there is a problem with the circulation of the water. And in this case, the circulation pump is not working. As a result, the boiler fires up, overheating, the water getting steam, and the steam try to go out of the system, and we listen to this hammering noise. The second scenario could be happen on ideal boilers. I found very frequently that is that, for example, if the boiler is cold and try to fire it up, initially make a vibration like a big lorry comes out of your house and vibrate the walls. It looks very scary. Of course, it's not something you have to worry, but definitely you cannot live with that. This is, for me, a big issue, because you have to replace, first of all, the gas valve, and secondly, you have to give a very, very good clean on the system. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for being on this live now. And yes, you have to replace the gas valve, and you have to strip and clean completely the whole burner of the boiler. On the commercial boilers, it's much more easier because we have much more filters we can replace at the same time and instantly give the solution, including the gas valve as well. Of course, guys, as we speak now, you can still keep send us messages or thumbs up if you have any questions and would you like to go ahead. Let's go to the next question. Sixth question, do I really need to service my boiler every year? Oh my God, yes. I love that question. That is actually one of the most common questions I have, and I make a lot of articles and posts everywhere. Yes, it's very critical to maintain the boiler because, first of all, on the new boilers, in order to maintain the 10 years guarantee, we have to have some audible records that we serviced every year. But let's leave the warranty compliance out of the game. It's about your safety. A lot of things can be wrong, guys. That's why when we rent a property, by the law, we have to issue a yearly safe certificate for any gas appliance we have in the house. Things can be wrong not because deliberately someone's make mistakes, but could be happen a lot of things, a lot of dangerous things. I will give you an example that I've been to the very nice installation, but okay, we are humans after all, and sometimes the material's faulty as well. The condensation pipe, which was above the gas pipe, unfortunately has a small tiny leak, and this drop going to the copper pipe. And yes, the customer could give me a call and told me, Yiannis, I smell gas. Can you come please to my house and see what's happened? And I asked him, have you ever serviced the boiler? And he told me never. I don't know why to do that. Is there any reason to service the boiler? I don't really live permanent in this property. I'm living just 4 or 5 months, and then the rest of my time I spend in Canada. And I explained to him that this little failure from the contents actually damaged the copper pipe, and the copper pipe releases gas in the atmosphere, and that can be very dangerous. The other thing which happened, it was that one of my customers serviced very rare the boiler, and one of the engineers forget to put the cap back from the products of combustion. Don't get me wrong, I don't think so it's a big deal, but can you imagine how many things can be wrong? And if you don't have somebody to service the boiler, you cannot really rely to luck. But anyway, if you don't want to do that, or if you cannot afford it, the only thing I will advise you is minimum buy a carbon monoxide alarm and fit it on the correct places, close to boiler, not more than 1-2 meters, not next to the window, on the highest point of the installation. If you can find someone to attach on the sill, that's going to be the best one. Just let you know that it's very, very important to maintain the boiler for me. The other thing we can check on the annual service is not only the safety, but the functionality as well. For example, what's the quality of the water in the system? Do we have inhibitor? Do we don't have inhibitor? Do we have hard water? We don't have hard water. What's the treatment we have to follow? Of course, sometimes it's very good to check the filters, to clean the filters as well, which I have a lot of videos as well on this channel, on the SKAN Academy, how to do that. It's also very important and critical, I think. Yes, definitely you have to do annual service. The other question is, what happens if I skip my boiler service a couple of years? Again, it fits your own boiler. It's your own responsibility. And if you don't have any warranty compliance, for example, the boiler has just 2 years guarantee or 6 years guarantee, and then you are running on 7th, 8th, or 9th year, there is no any warranty issues. The only issue is if you're under warranty. Second problem, if something's going wrong, as we say, and so far you are lucky, please don't try to challenge your luck. That's okay. We're humans. We miss a service. Nothing wrong with that. You have to speak this as soon as possible to your engineer to come across and make an inspection of your boiler. In this case, I would like to highlight something. To do a boiler service, guys, is not just to tick some boxes and says, listen, I will take 3, 4, 5 quotations. I will find the cheapest and I will bring the cheapest. On your gas boiler, you don't want summons to cut corners. You don't want summons without experience just to tick the boxes and whatever he understands of the boxes, or someone to tick the boxes just to take the, I don't know, 60, 70 quid and just disappear. You need someone really with experience. You really want someone to make sure that take care of your boiler, take care of your safety and the functionality of the boiler. That's my opinion, because I went to a lot of properties and I noticed that, for example, the condense trap, it was completely blocked. And when I asked the customer, seriously, why you don't do annual service of boiler? He told me, Yiannis, I do annual service. And actually, because I was so disappointed, I said to him, can I have the last certificate? He sent me a very nice file folder with all the certificates, which was made from other companies. And he showed me that he never lose an annual service. And that makes me very disappointing, because in the end of the day, if we don't do the quite basics and the essentials, I think just to someone's come and visually check the boiler and disappear, I'm not sure if that's considered service. Let's go to the next one. What temperature should my boiler be set for efficiency? It's a little bit long conversation, this one, guys, because we have to know, for example, what size, what type of radiators we have, if we have underfloor heating, if we have hot water cylinder on the system, if it's system boiler, if it's combi boiler. But generally speaking, we don't need to go more than 60, 65 degrees. I think we're absolutely fine with this one. And I think it's absolutely fine. You don't need to go more than this, for health and safety reasons as well, because if there are very old people or disabled people, if you touch the radiator and it's 75, 80 degrees, that's it. You burn out your skin. So I think 60, 65 is absolutely fine. Let's go to 9th question. Is it cheaper to leave the heating on at low all day to turn it on and off? Yes. Definitely, for someone to work from home and he spend all the time at home, it's better to leave the heating on. Yes, because this one helps a lot the house to warming up, because of course the radiators heat us, but the real heating comes when the house getting warm and the whole house radiates to us heating. But for example, if you are out all day and you want at home 6, 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, for example, or 10 o'clock, you go for sleep, you don't want too much heating anyway when you are asleep. So it's better to have a timer and you have certain times when you are at home. But if you work from home, if you have a family with the kids, it's better to have it constantly on. And that's the best solution for me. Unless you have another idea, I don't know. Let's go to the next questions. 10th question. Should I turn my heating off completely when I go on holiday? It's a little bit complicated, this question. Completely off. I think we have to leave it on the heating, but on 5 degrees, just for defrost protection. Because if it's winter, for example, and the temperature go below 5, we put at risk our system to something's going wrong and frost and damage the pipes. So yes, it's better for me to leave it constantly on at 5 degrees. And if the temperature go below 5, yes, this one is gonna come up. The hot water, yes, then you can leave it off. You don't need to heat the hot water if you have a cylinder when you are on holidays. Again, the defrost protection, if it's on 5 degrees, that's going to take care of your cylinder as well. Don't worry too much about it. 11th question. What's the difference between Combi system and heat-only boiler? Yeah, that's also very, very a good question. The Combi boiler does instant hot water and heating, and you don't need the cylinder or the circulation pump or nothing else. You need just a box on the wall, and that does everything. But the only restrictions we have with a Combi boiler is we can have, for example, only supply water for one bathroom. One bathroom, I mean one shower or one bath. But you cannot have 2 showers. The best case scenario, in case if we have maximum very good flow rate and you have a 35 kilowatt Combi boiler, sometimes maybe you feel that it's adequate for 2 showers, but I don't recommend, to be honest with you. It's for small properties, 3-bedroom flats with 1 bathroom. Yes, it's fine for me. If you have 2 bathrooms, of course, we don't talking about 3 bathrooms. Definitely, you need a cylinder. For 2 bathrooms and more, you need a cylinder for a proper hot water supply to your system. Then we have, yes, the heating only boiler and the system boiler is when we have a cylinder. The heating only boiler, I don't really understand the difference between system and heating only boiler, but the way we call it on the heating industry, the heating only boiler is a very old boiler. They don't have circulation pump inside. It's just the gas valve and the burner, and all the rest stuff is outside. The valve diverts, the cylinder, the circulation pump. So let's go to the next one. What's the difference between, we say that 12th question. How can I tell if my old boiler still safe to use? We come back to the engineer view. We come back to skilled person. They have to inspect and test your boiler to see the safety. A rule of thumb is after 12, 15 years old, I don't think so. It's good to rely to the boiler, because the boiler getting older has already did the miles he has to do, and after that we have to start to budget in thinking to replace the boiler before the boiler stopped working, or at least to have the budget available the time the boiler stopped working. 13th question, what the purpose of the small pressure gauge on my boiler? Yes, the boiler has to have certain water pressure in order to fire up and to work. In this case, we have to have somehow a visual inspection as users or as engineers, and that's the U gauge. This is the job it does, just to check if we have the necessary pressure. Bear in mind, again, if we're getting older, like discussed a few minutes ago, that as we're getting older and those gauges does not work in accurately, so we cannot really rely to them. That's why, again, when we're getting older, between 12 and 15 years, I think it's the best idea to replace the boiler. Of course, depends on the condition. Always depends on the condition. Just to give you a rule of thumb, just to have this conversation. Bear in mind, this conversation on this live and all the videos does not override or recap the engineers. The engineers are the people they visit and assess the boiler, that are qualified and trained to do that. Here we have just a nice conversation, because I know you're interested to learn, and I'm more than happy to share whatever I know and give you just a bold idea, just somehow an idea. 14th question, why does one room in my house never getting warm? Right. First of all, we have to make sure if the radiator is on or off. If the radiator is on, and we have to make sure if the size of the radiator is the adequate size, because I can see, for example, someone's make a conservatory and there is a radiator inside the house, and take the 15 mil pipe just to feed another small radiator. And then the conservatory is always cold. So we have to calculate the losses and feed the correct radiator and feed it with the correct pipe system in order to work fine. Because some houses, they do extensions, and instead to run a new line from the boiler to the radiator, they just take the extension of the extended radiator, and in the end of the day, the radiator, even if it's there, it cannot really help that room. The other thing is if the TRV is stuck. The other thing is, as we mentioned, if it's the installation getting old, the system has too much sludge and cannot circulate properly the water. It's something that, again, an engineer or a plumber can be there and check it. And you give me a great opportunity now to explain you that heating engineers specialize on boilers. They do everyday boilers. They're dealing every day with heating. They don't do any other plumbing works. That's why they can give you a very accurate and very quick idea about those things. A plumber, as long as he's certified, definitely he can do whatever the heating engineer can do. But the thing is, it's amount of time you spend. A plumber, for example, he's a competent person to do bathrooms, to do tiling, to do soil pipes, do everything about wherever there is water, the plumber can manage. But when we go to special problems, it's like to go to the doctor. Or the GP is the general practitioner, and if you have something serious, you have to go to the consultant. Exactly the same thing is with the heating engineers. The plumbers can do 90% what the heating engineers can do, but this 10%, when start the problems or when we have questions, they come in the heating engineers, which every day deal with that problems and give you that answer to 10%, which nobody else can give you without the experience of the heating engineer. Let's go to the next one. Why is an inhibitor? What is an inhibitor? And do I really need in my system? Yes. Guys, this is something make me, unfortunately, to laugh sometimes. What is the inhibitor? In the central heating system, we have dissimilar metals. We have copper pipes, we have iron radiators, we have aluminum boilers, we have a lot of different metals which react through the conductivity of the water, those metals, and start the corrosion. That's why we have magnetic filters in order to catch that sludge and clean it once per year, once per second year, once per 3 years, whatever. In order to reduce this conductivity of the water, we have to use an inhibitor. There are a lot of types of inhibitor. There are different technologies we can do that. But let's say the big players at the market, Fernox, Plummate, whatever, at the moment, they use some very, very nice ways to do that. And one of these ways is just to add inhibitor. When we add inhibitor, we reduce the conductivity of the water. As a result, it's much more difficult to happen. Still happen, the corrosion because of the dissimilar metals, but we reduce the speed. And that gives us long life cycle in the system. Next question, 16th. Why do I get air in the radiator so often? Yeah. Yes, good question. First of all, a little bit air, we can have it, for example, if we do some works on the system, drain part of the system, and then when we refill the system, a little bit air always go to the radiators. If we have a leakage somewhere on the system, and we top up the system manually, unfortunately, the highest point of the installation, like the tower rails or the second or third floor of the radiators, always on top they have air and we have to bleed the air. So yes, somewhere we have a leakage. That's why we have to get rid of the air. Next question. Are the smart thermostats like Hive or Nest really worth for the money? Yes. First of all, we have the facility to put certain times when we need. That is economy. The other thing is we can really have quality how to control the heating, because all that systems, they have also TRV thermostatic valves, so we can control every single room, what temperature we have, and we have harmony on the heating system, which is very, very important. Yes, for me, answer is without a doubt yes. I don't want to expand more, but just let you know, every Combi boiler which is installed now has to have somehow weather compensation system. The cheapest way, and for the most reliable way, is the smart thermostat, because they collect data externally from the environment, control, compare that with our habits, and give the best option on the system. So by the law as well, we need it in order to reduce the emissions. 18th question. My heating works, but I have no hot water. What could I cause that? Right. If we have a 3-port valve diverter, or if we have a Y system or S system, but I don't want to speak with a technical terminology to you guys, but if we have a system, sometimes the valves stuck to the hot water only, and that's happened September, October, when we try to fire up for the first time. Could be happening anytime, but just let you know, the majority of the jobs happen after the summer period where they don't move it. And when you try to turn it on, they start to move it, stuck, and they work only for the hot water, but not working for the radiators. So 9 to 10 times is the valve diverter. Could be anything, but 9 to 10 times this is the reason. 19th question. What is the white pipe under the boiler, and what does the drip sometimes? Yes, the white pipe is the condensation pipe. The condensation is toxic. The pH is quite low. And in this case, we have to make sure it's not dripping and it's not leaking, because wherever that condens go, damage whatever find on the way. The reason we have plastic is because the condensation, if go to the metal, whatever metal it is, it's gonna damage it. That's why we put it on the plastic, and we send it to the special treatment way, the soil pipe, or if we have to send it outside, we have to go to the soak away with special neutralized stones. And that's the best way. Of course, guys, as we speak now, if you have any more questions, just let me know. All right. And the last question, the 20th, when is the right time to replace the boiler instead of repair it? For me, if the boiler is more than 12 years old, and you can afford to replace the boiler, do it. Anything between 15 years old and more, 100% you have to replace anyway, because what we notice is when we try to repair it, when we try to uninstall parts and install new parts, unfortunately we damage other parts until we go to the system. And even if we replace some parts, something else could be went wrong as well. So unfortunately, you spend money to maintain an old boiler, which anyway is gonna let you down. So for me, yes, it's worth for investment after minimum 12, maximum 15 years old to replace the boiler. I think that's the best time period. And with these questions, we are on the end of this session. I would like to thank you for the bottom of my heart to stay on this live. I would like to thank you so much for your time to spend with us. Every Saturday night we have this live. Please send me your questions, your concerns, and I promise you I will answer all the questions. Have a good evening. See you. Bye-bye.